Test, test. Surrounded by them.
Coming
Okay.
over for Christmas now, dude. So.
Okay, everybody ready? Very good. I'll call the meeting to order. Call the meeting to order, regular city council meeting of December 6th, 2022. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Yes. Councilmember Mark Joseph,
Here.
Councilmember David Oro,
Here.
Councilmember Pierre Washington,
Here.
Vice Mayor Abudamas is excused this evening, Mayor Leon Garcia.
Here. Thank you. Now we'll move on to report on closed action. Any reportable action? Mr. Ross?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, members of the public, your council convened an open session at 5:03 p.m. to address the matters agendized for closed session after ascertaining that there was no public comment on those matters. You concluded your closed session at 6:28 p.m. and with respect to each of the matters agendized, I will do a written report upon return for closed session consistent with the provisions of Government Code Section 54957.1. That would conclude the report unless there are questions.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Ross. We'll move on now to special business. Well, an evening for cause for celebration. Declaration of the results of the general election November 8, 2022. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We were so focused on the cake, we forgot there's an actual agenda item.
You have a cake every meeting.
Give me a second here, Mayor.
I think there isn't a cake out there yet.
Filling in for our elections official, City Clerk Teresa, who's out this evening. Essentially, the recommendation is to declare the results of the election that happened on November 8th. The staff report identifies the different measures and different items that were on the ballot. There were 2 city council terms for January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2026. Candidate Mark Joseph had 3,037 votes. Candidate David Oro had 2,921 votes. And so the top two votes would be the city council candidates. Also Measure J, which was an initiative petition to add 156 acres of property to the city's urban limit line and change our general plan, was actually voted no, 2,949 votes no versus 2,693 votes to the yes. So a resolution is included in the packet, and staff would recommend adoption of the resolution, noting we amended the council agenda on Friday, the certification from John Tudor certifying the final results of the election. With that, are there any questions? I'm happy to try and answer them.
Questions from council at this time?
I don't think there's no questions or objections, so I'd like to make a motion.
We'll ask for public comment first. Public comment on this matter? Anyone? If not, public comment is closed.
Actually, we do have 2 public comments via Zoom.
Okay, very good. Public comment is not closed. All right, go ahead.
So we have Justin Hamilton Hall,
Okay.
please unmute yourself, Mr. Holm?
Everybody hear me? Everybody hear me? Nicole, you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Justin.
I just gonna say, great job. We have our 2 here. So great work, everybody. Enjoy your cake.
Thank you for that.
Next, we have Karen Fritz. Karen, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, ma'am.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
If you a little closer to
Okay,
your
I
mic
just-
or bump your
I
volume a
just
little
have
bit.
a question.
Mhm.
If their vote numbers were higher for no, how can we just go and make a resolution and change what the general public has voted against?
To answer that question, Mayor, the resolution is to accept the election results. It's not to change them.
Okay, thank you.
I wish I had that power sometimes, but the vote is what the vote
I was
is.
just a little confused with that one.
It's to
Thank
accept
you.
accept the certification of the election results from John Tudor, the elections official with the county that we consolidated the election with. So the resolution is to accept the results.
Yeah, and just to
Okay.
clarify, by certifying the numbers indicated that the noes had 2,900 versus 27, so.
Correct.
Yeah.
And finally, we have B. Saxton. Please unmute yourself.
Good, yes, thank you. Yes, I'm Beverly Saxon Leonard, and I was a member of the No on J campaign. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I just wanted to thank both the council and the voters of American Canyon for voting to reject the initiative. It's a crucial decision and supports the idea that the citizenry wants to preserve not only farmland, but also the important wetland resources which provide recreational opportunities to the public. This issue interested people not only of the city of American Canyon, but also in the county of Nampa. Many people use the trails and enjoy the wildlife that makes the wetlands home. We want to encourage you, the decision makers of American Canyon, to do whatever possible to preserve the wetlands as a resource. The issue of future tidal rise is real, and it's important to plan for the future and protect against the negative consequences that we will surely face as a result of wetlands degradation. In conclusion, American Canyon's Wetlands Edge Park is a beautiful, special place. I know the city will do whatever it can to protect and improve it. I want to thank you again for caring about our future, and I thank the City Council for allowing me to make this statement.
And actually, we have one more, Yvonne Bengensi. And hold on just 1 second, I'm sorry. Please unmute yourself, please, Yvonne.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I want to extend my appreciation for the defeat of Measure J. The American Canyon residents who had the foresight to vote no and establish the grounds for a conversation on possibilities for the next steps in this process. This was the first campaign I've ever participated in. And not being an insider of American Canyon politics or even a resident of this community, it was difficult. Finding the truth in this campaign was especially so. I would like to ask for the council for the further study of the water output of the recycling plant, especially for the salt content and how this is affecting the soil. I was told by a Napa County soil scientist that salt in the soil can be remediated if the analysis and impact is known. Secondly, this property, as well as other properties along the shoreline that are private land, is still in jeopardy of development. We cannot assume that any of this land will be left as is. It is important that we all understand the ecological benefits of shoreline transformation. This estuary has been invaded as a dumping ground. It's been filled, developed, and drained. We know that the times have changed, but how can we change with them? I don't know. I suggest that we organize a study session with Save the Bay, the Greenbelt Alliance, and the San Francisco Estuary Institute and educate ourselves on possibilities. This session could include public officials like yourselves, commissioners and staff and property owners, but it would be a bringing together opportunity so that we all have the same information to draw our conclusions. Until we can all see through the lens of ecological necessity, I think we will be playing whack-a-mole with each property each time. There is a very broad picture here, and I suggest we take some time to know it. Our group, the No on Measure J Committee, which will probably need a new name now, will be happy to work with and assist this council and city officials in the planning of such a study session. And thank you to you all.
Mayor, nobody else has their hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you all. There's the desired action from the council.
If there's no objections, I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 2022, that is next in order, to adopt a resolution for the City Council of the City of American Canyon, reciting the facts, the general election held on November 8th, 2022, declaring the results as such other matters as provided by law, and directing City Clerk, well, in her absence, Nicole Jones, to administer the oath of office to the two new city council members. Congratulations, guys.
Is there a second? I can second that motion, please. Motion second, roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Mark Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember David Oro,
Absolutely.
Councilmember Pierre Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abradamas is excused this evening, Mayor Leon Garcia.
Yes, thank you. That being said, we're going to administer the oath of office, and then we'll have a little recess because this is a time to celebrate as well. I congratulate my two council colleagues on their achievement. I look forward to working with you to the betterment of American Canyon.
Mr. Joseph, could you please stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me? I state your name.
I, Mark Joseph,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and that I take this obligation freely
And I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Bravo.
Councilmember Oro, could you please stand and raise your right hand? Repeat after me. I, please state your name,
I, David Oro,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
the to the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
discharge upon the duties of which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Take a little recess at this time. Council, how much time do we feel we would?
Yep, 5-10 minutes. We
10
want to
minutes.
sign that, and I think we want to do a couple photos. So.
Okay. No, let's give ourselves 10, 15 minutes, something like that. Thank you. We are recessed. And?
Okay.
Mark.
like doing this. Yeah. That's the first time I've spoken to him in past, passing at Brenda's events. Okay. You know, he never connected the South to who, you know, I was, and I was trying to be polite back then. We shared the same. Yeah. So I think after a while, he started thinking, oh, I do know that. Yeah. When I used to, I was like, I hear a lot of things about you. Really good. What's your birthday? It was great. Yeah. Carolyn took me to Hawaii, so we spent 5 days there. Wow. Yeah. That's a nice birthday. It is. It is. Which island? Get more bags in the boat. It's running around. No people. Okay. Nice. Nice relaxing. Great. It was 85 degrees every day. Here's my shorts on. No, I don't think it'd be. Yeah, I think that she would appreciate it. Yeah, no, I don't. Good.
All right. Ready to get started? How do we do time-wise? Oh, not too bad. Okay, council, we're ready to reconvene.
Oh, they're not gonna stay for the whole meeting?
I invited them to have 3 minutes per agenda item.
Let me bring my agenda back up here. Come on. Okay, council, we're ready on the right, ready on the left. We will commence. Moving on with our agenda this evening, we have proclamations and presentations. Item number 5, section 115, trust.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have with us today Mitch Barker. He's the Executive Vice President of PARS. PARS stands for Public Agencies Retirement Services. Currently, the city has a ARS, which is an alternative retirement savings plan for our part-time employees through PARS, but they also have a presentation tonight regarding a Section 115 trust. He's going to cover all the really great details. In essence, a trust is, this specific trust is a tool that will help the city save for pension costs in the future, but I'm sure Mitch is going to tell you more about that.
Good evening, welcome.
Thank you, Maria. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, pleasure to be here tonight. As mentioned, my name is Mitch Barker, Executive Vice President with PARS. I live about 2 hours from here in Amador County.
Oh, okay.
Moved there about a year ago from Orange County, and it's a pleasure to be in rural California now.
That's kind of a ways away, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Gold Rush country.
Yes.
Got about a 10-minute presentation tonight. The goal is to educate you on the 115 Trust, keep it simple, and answer questions. And there's my contact information. As mentioned, PARS does a couple of things. We're specialists at 115 Trust, which I'll get into a little more detail, but we also do this FICA alternative program for your part-time, seasonal, and temporary employees. We've been doing that for approximately 10 years. So what does PARS overall do? We're known as trust administrators, which means we do record keeping, we do accounting, we do plan compliance as it relates to the IRS, who blesses our trust as a tax-exempt pre-funding vehicle. We also work with the state government code as it relates to investments, and then finally GASB, which sets the rules for accounting standards. So we've got to work with all those folks. We can't do it all by ourselves, so we also work with U.S. Bank. They are our trustee, which means they hold the assets. And then finally, Highmark Capital, who's our investment management partner. And they have the toughest job of trying to figure out what's going on in the market. Wanted to share with you that we've got almost 500 agencies that have adopted our 115 Trust. For sake of brevity, I kept it to just those in the Bay Area. We've got them broken out, as you see, by cities, towns, counties, and special districts. Quite a few cities close to you here that are also in this program. So what is a 115 Trust? I think in simple form, I would call it simply a savings account. It's a savings account that is outside of your general fund. It's in a 115 Trust because the IRS has deemed that as a positive place to put it, meaning that it is tax exempt, the earnings on the trust. You're a tax exempt agency, but the assets aren't inside your general fund. They're in this 115 Trust. So it was important to get something called a private letter ruling from the IRS blessing this trust as a tax exempt vehicle. So the idea is to set this money aside for pension, hopefully earn a greater rate of return than your general fund, but have access to it when you need it. And those are the simple goals of the trust. It does have the capability of setting money aside for OPEB 2, also known as retiree medical. But the main focus tonight is for pension-related expenses. Real important bottom right there, no setup cost, no minimums. So we try to remove all the barriers to entry and make this as simple as possible to go forward if you choose to do so. So again, no cost to set up this trust, get your account ready, and there's no requirement to even pre-fund it. And we certainly don't have any minimums in terms of fees or contribution amounts. So again, tried to make it very user-friendly. Let me mention one thing before I leave this slide, and that is, once the money's in the trust, what can you use it for? Well, GASB's real specific. Once you put it into the pension account, you can only use it for pension-related expenses. So that graphic on the right tells you the two ways you can use the money. You can use them to either reimburse the City of American Canyon for pension-related expenses, or you can pay CalPERS when you deem it appropriate. But the idea is to have this savings account to prepare you for the future. So let's talk about our pension rate stabilization program. Three things have happened in the past that have really changed the landscape on pension. Upper left, that first paragraph, GASB came out with Statement 68 in 2015. Prior to that, you could put pension numbers basically in the footnotes and nobody really read them. In 2015, they came out with GASB 68 that said, aha, pension liabilities are now a line item on your balance sheet. So they're front and center, and everybody needs to look at them with the importance that they bear, which is how do we deal with those in the future. CalPERS did two things in the last few years that have impacted these numbers as well. They lowered their discount rate. To me, a discount rate is a different term. It's an actuarial term. Sounds like there's a discount involved, but really discount rate you want to think of as the expected rate of return by CalPERS. Well, it used to be 8 back in the day. Then it went to 7.5. And then last year they voted to lower it from 7 to 6.8, with an indication they'll continue to lower it in the future. Why did they lower it? Because the capital markets were putting pressure on them and other pension systems to get real. They weren't achieving 8, not 7.5, and not even 7. So they lowered it to 6.8. The last 4 years have been 6.7, 4.7. 2 years ago, they had a great year we'll look at of 21%. How did last year go? Not so good, negative 7.5. They just reported final numbers in the last month. So 3 out of the 4 last years under 6.8%. So that's why they've continued to lower. They also shortened the amortization period from 30 to 20 years. It's sort of like your mortgage company saying, thank you for paying your mortgage on time. You've got X number of dollars remaining to pay. We're going to shorten the period of time in which you have to pay off your mortgage. And you think, wait a minute, I didn't ask for this. I like my disposable income. They basically said, this is what we need to do to help lower your liabilities over time. So it's put pressure on local governments to pay for their annual cost. Let's look at your numbers that just came out from CalPERS in August. As you may know, they run 1 year behind. They report on their returns, but it takes them 1 year to get out your actuarial valuation. And the reason for that is they have 4,000 agencies, and it just takes a long time to finally get out the numbers. So again, the numbers that came out in August 2022 are valued, as you see in that middle column, June 2021. Well, look at the first line. Your liabilities went up 10.9%, but your assets went from 30 to 38 million, 27.8% increase. Why? Well, we just talked about the fact that CalPERS had a great year last year. Therefore, your unfunded liability went down from 9.5 to 5.4, a 42% decrease. That's fantastic for your balance sheet, because that's one of the ways you're judged by rating companies is, how do your liabilities look? And are you doing something about them? Your funded ratio went from 76% to 87.6%, which is in line with other agencies. That 21% increase reflected a 10 percentage point increase in funded ratio. Well, that's the good news. What's the difficult news? They just had a return of negative 7.5% this last year. So those will get reflected in next year's numbers. So what do you have to deal with each year? You've got to deal with that employer contribution amount. 2 years ago, it was 1.5, sorry, last year. This year, it's 1.6 million that you have to contribute to pay for pension-related cost. They're predicting it's going to go down 1 point to 1.3. However, that doesn't take into account the negative performance from last year. So the idea is to be prepared for whatever's coming down the road. So we think the 115 Trust is a good tool for you to consider. So why pre-fund pension obligations? Pre-fund's kind of a fancy word for save. Set money aside in reserve. Not in the general fund, because the general fund can be used for many things. And if it's inside there, it could be diverted to other uses. If you put it in the 115 Trust, as you may remember, you can only use it for pension-related expenses. So it's restricted. So the first idea is local control over the assets. Because if you put it in the trust, it's in control for pension. What's the other option to do with that additional money? Send it to CalPERS, above and beyond your annual contribution amount. Now, that's not a bad idea. We just don't think it's the best idea. Because if you have an emergency or a bad budget year and you say to CalPERS, I'd like that $250,000 back, that extra I gave you. The answer is no. Once you pay extra money to them, it stays with CalPERS. In the trust, if you need the money, you can get the money out, which is really point number 3. It is a rainy day fund. So if you had an emergency or a bad budget year, and we saw on the previous page that your contribution amount was 1.6, let's say you only had 1 million. Where's the other 600,000 coming from? It could come from the trust if you've pre-funded. So think of that savings account as a real rainy day fund tool. Point number 2, pension rate stabilization. If their costs grow faster than your budget, what can you do to stabilize the process? You can go to our trust fund to help make up the difference, and that's the point. And number 4, and the final point, is diversification. Your general fund, by definition in state California government code, cannot diversify their investments. It's a non-risky portfolio for a reason. It needs to be there to pay your bills. Our portfolio is a diversified portfolio, which means some amount of stocks and bonds. But staff and the council control what's the risk tolerance level, ultimately, if you were to go forward. And the other key is spread the risk instead of sending additional money to CalPERS, because then all your eggs would be in one basket. But by putting money in the trust, you're spreading that risk.
Let the dog in. Made myself a bowl of ice cream.
Didn't know you had any.
Got a little tiny bit. I made a little bit. Would you like one?
No.
Let's talk about the investment side a little bit. It's a simple investment approach. It's certainly not simple to figure out what's going on in the market. We take input first. What's the target return that the city might like? Number 2, when might you use those funds? Folks putting money into the 115 Trust today are looking at least 3 years, but typically 5 years out into the future. If you were to want to use the money soon, then you would certainly put it in money market. You wouldn't put it in anything risky. If you can put it out for 5 years, in the middle there you see there's 5 model portfolios ranging from conservative at the bottom to capital appreciation. The most common strategy picked by 280 agencies in this plan, moderate. It's the 50-50 strategy right in the middle. And that strategy has earned 5.1% over a 10-year period, versus LAIF, which is the most common liquidity management program that's restricted. It's earned 0.91 over that 10-year period. So you sort of see the opportunity here. Set money aside, it's restricted for pension, and has the chance to earn a greater rate of return than your general fund. And number 3, what we're really known for is our personal touch when it comes to the portfolio management side. There would be a portfolio manager that's dedicated to the city. They will write up an investment policy specific to the city. And 3, they make house calls, meaning they come to committee meetings or council meetings and they present either by Zoom or in person. So you'll have somebody that is taking care of your account specifically. And by the way, the cell phone number they pass out too, because the market's gone down 1,000 points in a day. And people have wanted to call up and say, what do we do? Do we buy, do we sell, or do we stand pat? Mr. Portfolio Manager, we want to know the answer to that. And that's the personal touch that we're going to provide if you were to move forward. Fees. As mentioned, we wanted to make it as easy as possible to get started. So if you were to go forward and adopt our plan down the road, at some point, there's no setup fee. We don't charge any fee until you ultimately put assets in the trust. And there's no requirement. So it's sort of like getting a fiscal tool, if you will, for your toolbox at Ace Hardware. There's no cost to buy it. You put it in the toolbox and you use it when you deem appropriate. Once you do put assets in, the PARS Trust Administration fee is 0.25% of assets with a sliding scale that goes down. And then Highmark Capital for investment management starts at 0.35% and also goes down as the assets build over time. So my final slide is, why take this step? Well, you need a tool to smooth out pension rate volatility. You saw the numbers. You see how they go up, they go down, but we don't quite know where the future's going, so we want to be ready. We also need a hedge against inflation. In June, it was 9.1%, the highest it's been in 40 years. As of October, the latest number that we got is 7.7%. So hopefully it continues to go in that same direction. But this is a hedge against inflation. Number 3, I mentioned the fiscal tool in your toolbox. You need all the tools you can get to deal with what's coming in terms of liabilities and higher costs. So finally, our catchphrase really is prepare today for tomorrow's pension realities. That's my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. You know, I had some familiarity with it. Just got noticed I've been reappointed to the League of California Cities, what is it, Labor, Governance, Transparency. Doesn't sound terribly exciting, but it's all about CalPERS. So my first meeting some years ago went in, and by the way, I'm a state retired employee. CalPERS is going broke. What? But what you talk about is something that's crucial. I mean, this PARS came around as a result of all that activity before, which gave a lot more flexibility to local jurisdictions. So I've always been supportive of it. I think with responsible fiduciary management, you know, cities have that flexibility to be on top of things and have access to uncertainty out there in terms of how they can handle it. With that, Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, well, thank you for the presentation. A quick question on the management fees. It's 0.25 for the trust and 0.35 for the portfolio managers, so it's a total of 0.6?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's multiplied times total assets divided by 12, so it's a monthly fee, and it's taken from plan assets.
So it's 0.6 per year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so if I understand this correctly, we would need to have some extra cash, because that's basically what we're doing, is we're pre-funding by just transferring excess cash out of our general fund or whatever into the pre-fund. So that's the first condition, because we may not have anything left over. And then the second thing is, it seems to me that your yields have to be higher than PERS's yields, not necessarily LAIF, because you're right, if we left our excess cash in LAIF, we wouldn't make any money.
Correct.
But if we gave it to PERS, they would, if I understand it correctly, they are accruing interest earnings at their discount rate. So basically, your yields have to be higher than what PERS can do, not what LAIF can do.
Correct. Since we're both in diversified strategies and we're operating under the same investment code restrictions.
Okay.
Highmark is outperforming CalPERS, and that's one of the reasons why on extra cash, agencies have decided to put it in our trust, because one, they can control what the risk tolerance level is, and two, on a similar strategy, we are outperforming CalPERS.
Okay.
They've only got the one strategy. It's about a 75-25 strategy.
Yeah.
As you saw, we have 5. So our capital appreciation, the one at the top, is the most equivalent to CalPERS.
Okay. Well, it's certainly food for thought.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Another comment from council? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any public comment? Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Moving on in our agenda then, public comment items not on the agenda. Do we have anybody in the audience for public comment? Item not on the agenda. Please step to the podium.
Fran Lemus. I'd just like to make a comment about this stoplight here, the new one that's out in front. You have 2 left lanes going left. You have then the 1 lane going right. And I know when I come up to that stop sign and I want to turn right, there's a car in front of me that wants to go straight. And I think that that stop intersection should have 1 lane left, 1 lane straight, and 1 lane right. And then nobody waits. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wishing to make a comment? If not, do we have anybody online?
Yes. We have Albert Liff. Just one moment. Mr. Liff, please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself, Mr. Liff.
Can we bring up the,
Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
it's not very well, sir. Need a little more volume.
Can you hear me now?
That's better. Yes, thank you.
All right, what I want to say is I want to thank everybody that was involved in the Citizens Academy. And thank you for the graduation. Another thing I think you should include in Citizens Academy when the fire department is talking, that the certs should be involved a little bit to get people involved or interested into CERT, so we can get more people so that the first responders can do their job and CERTs could do their job. Thank you.
Thank you. Another speaker?
Yes. Next we have Eve.
Thank you. Another speaker?
Yes. Next we have Eve.
Hello, yes, I'm hearing some background noise.
We're having a hard time hearing you. I need more volume.
I think it's, yeah. Okay, can you hear me now?
That's better. Yes, thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you and good evening and congratulations to Mark Joseph and David Oro. If I knew you were having cake, I might have come in person. It wasn't on your agenda. So, I want to take this opportunity to thank you. For many months ago, you made a decision to put Measure J on the ballot, and that was very much appreciated because, as was mentioned earlier, the residents and voters have spoken in terms of their direction. The No on Measure J committee, and a few people spoke earlier, was a very small and very focused group. We had limited funds, and we spent many, many hours talking directly to the residents instead of using that time and money to post signs around the community. I personally spoke with many parents and grandparents who walk and ride the wetlands trail with their family. And based upon their feedback, I want to encourage you to continue to improve and expand recreational educational opportunities along the wetlands, because they definitely was one of the, I never heard anybody say anything other than praise. So I just want to pass that along to you. I hope that's information you already have. Thank you so much.
Thank you for passing that along. Thank you. Another speaker?
We have no other speakers at this time.
Okay. I'll close public comment on items not on the agenda. Move on to our council agenda. Agenda changes. If there are no agenda changes, we have a consent calendar. There are items to be pulled and be discussed. I'll accept a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve this consent calendar.
I'll second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Yes. Councilmember Mark Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember David Oro?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierre Washington?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abadamos is absent. Mayor Leon Garcia?
Yes. Thank you, council. There we go here. Moving on now to public hearings. Item 15, summary vacation of easement.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. City Manager Holly here. Going to take this item. Director Smithies is available online with questions, but she's under the weather tonight. So this item is a public hearing related to the vacation of a sewer easement that the former American Canyon County Water District obtained many years ago as part of a capital project to put sewer lines across a property at the very northern edge of town. Since that time, in conjunction with the Devlin Road project, new sewer lines and new infrastructure has been installed by the Napa Logistics Park, and it was always part of the plan with the property acquisition swap that we had with the landowner for the Devlin Road right-of-way was to vacate this easement once the new infrastructure was in its location in the new place. So the new infrastructure is within easements already now, and the new road is within the new road right-of-way. And so the last part of this transaction is to then vacate this easement. So the city is the only entity with with utility infrastructure within this easement. And so it's appropriate to have a summary vacation under the under the Streets and Highways Code to vacate that easement. The page 104 talks about the Streets and Highways Code procedure for summary vacation, and the resolution on page 105 makes the required findings for such a process under the Streets and Highways Code. If there are any other questions, happy to answer them, but the staff recommendation is to proceed with the vacation.
Before I open the public hearing, any questions?
Is there one resolution or two? I see two in the packet. There's Exhibit D. Is that an old resolution? Oh, that's from. Okay,
Yeah,
that's wrong.
sorry. That is there's a singular resolution for tonight's action. The additional attachments are the land acquisition that I previously mentioned and the swap that we were doing. So they're for reference only.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no other questions from council, I'll open the public hearing now this time. Anybody wanting to address this in attendance or online?
There's nobody online raising their hand?
Okay. One last time, anybody from the public wishing to comment on this matter? Seeing no one, I'll close public comment. We'll turn to council for further discussion, desired action.
If there's no further discussion, I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 2022 next in order. A resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon authorizing the city manager to summarily vacate the 20-foot wide easement described in the grant of easement recorded May 23rd, 1978 in volume 1082, page 109 to 111 of Napa County official records.
Second. Motion second. Roll call, please.
Yes. Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Councilmember Washington?
Yes.
Councilmember Albadamos is absent. Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you, council. Move on in our public hearing. Item 16, Real Del Mar tentative parcel map and design permit extension.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll hand it over to Senior Planner William He.
Very good.
Sorry, I can't find the button for full screen for some reason. Need a little help. Where's the full screen button? I don't want a slideshow.
You don't?
No, because then I can't control the time.
Oh.
That's so weird. All right, let's try the slideshow, then that's fine.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's so weird.
There we go.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and members of the public. My name is William with the Planning Division, and I'm here to talk about the Real Del Mar tentative map and design permit extension. Just to orient everyone, this project is at the corner of West Carolyn Drive and Real Del Mar. It's about 2.15 acres, and it's one of the last vacant parcels in the Real Del Mar neighborhood. This project consists of 4 single-family lots that was approved in 2018. The project, here is a slide that shows how the lots are oriented. And here's a project overview. The project consists of 4 single-family homes. Each of the homes are single-story, approximately 14 and a half feet in height, and range from 1,800 to 2,000 square foot houses. The project was approved in March of 2018. This is an overview of what happened with the project after it was approved. The applicant has worked with staff to complete their site improvement plans, which was approved in 2020, and the applicant has been working with Public Works to finalize the site improvement agreement, but in 2021, they have requested the project to be on hold. And then in October of 2021, the applicant submitted the first request for an extension due to unfavorable market conditions. And last year, in November of 2021, the City Council approved the first extension for 12 months, which lasts until December of 2021. So the expiration date has been a moving date for this project, and I want to give an overview of just the expiration date. So with the approval from the Planning Commission, they get 24 months, and the first expiration date was March of 2020. And then last year, Assembly Bill 1561 provided a one-time 18-month extension for eligible housing projects. Staff worked with the city attorney to review the project to make sure that it fits with the AB 1561, but that required a little bit more time, so there was a 3-month extension, sort of like a grace period to review that application. All in all, the City Council approved the 1-year extension, which lasts until December 17th of this month. So they only have a couple more days before this project expires. So the applicant has applied for a second extension, which would last until, for 12 months, which would last until December 17th, 2023. They've cited the impacts of COVID-19, unexpected construction costs, and also the inflation rate impacts. And their letter of justification is attached in attachment 3 of the staff report. So I want to talk about the environmental review. This project would fit under the Class 32 infill exemption for CEQA. So the 12-month extension, an additional one, would still make the project consistent with the approved project, so no further environmental review is required. And in accordance to Chapter 18 of the Municipal Code regarding parcel maps and subdivisions, an applicant has the ability to apply for 3 12-month extensions, but each of them have to come back to the City Council for approval. So this would be the second of the 3. So with all that, staff's recommendation is to approve the additional 12 months, and I'll be here if you have any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Council, any questions at this point before I open up the public hearing?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph.
First question is, since 2018, what additional conditions of approval have come about that if this started over today, that they would be conditioned that they wouldn't have, that they weren't because it was 2018? And I'm thinking some of the state requirements as it relates to energy in particular, but any other conditions. Well, let's be more specific. Significant conditions. Minor stuff doesn't matter. And I'm asking that because I'm looking at it from the point of view that if you started all over again, you would have to meet today's standards. And I'm thinking that we ought to ensure that if we do grant an extension, that we might want to add additional conditions to kind of update the project. And for me, I'm looking primarily at renewable energy use, energy efficiencies, those kinds of areas. In particular, even though it's not a requirement, the idea of a battery backup that goes with solar panels. So that's my first question. Anything off the top of your head that we might want to consider as a condition for our extension?
Certainly, I couldn't think of any municipal code changes that would add impacts to them. However, the building code has been updating every year and every 3 years. So, and the new building code starts January 1st. However, they haven't submitted their building permit applications yet, so they will be subject to the latest codes when they submit. I think in the 2023 code, solar panels are required for all the houses, so they will be subject to that.
Okay. Probably the only thing would be my own personal preference, and that is to require that they include a battery for battery backup and essentially be a little more self-contained, because I do think that's actually good for the environment, but it's also good for whoever buys it, because it will substantially reduce their energy bills and probably more than offset the cost of the additional battery. So that was my biggest question. I have a more philosophical point that I'll bring up after the public hearing's closed.
Okay, any other comment, questions from council? Okay, I will then open the public hearing on this matter at this time. Anybody in the audience wishing to comment? If not, anybody online?
Yes, we have Justin Hamilton Hall.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Did everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Justin.
Okay. So, when's gonna start? Has it been there? That hill's been there for a long time, and we had no sidewalk. Do you know when it's gonna start? When it's date? When it's soon? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
There are no other speakers on Zoom at this time.
Okay. Now, plus close public comment at this time. We'll return to council for further discussion.
I think the question from the member of the public was any indication of when they might build.
Yes, that's what would be some time to ask that question.
I don't have any. I don't have any updates as to when they are planning to.
How long might we expect the application process to take forward if we're submitted timely?
Isn't the issue really he needs to sell the parcel and somebody needs to buy it and say, okay, now I want to build my 4 houses, and along with that is the sidewalk. So the answer to when is whenever they can sell it.
Yeah.
And
then there's a process after that.
Without the extension, the answer will be
Well,
that and a lot longer.
Hopefully he has it, can take care of that within the year, if we allow that.
And in regards to the question of the sidewalk, the site improvement plan requires sidewalk, curb and gutter, and as well as an additional curb ramp at the.
Yeah, there's a particularly noticeable vacant strip there along Rio Del Mar. On the, well, after you get past the church, yeah. But yeah, it would be good to have that taken care of. Hopefully we can, the party can find a buyer for the property. All right. Any other public comment?
Well, if there's no other public comment or council comment, I'm willing to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2022 and next in order to give.
Wait.
Wait,
There is another comment.
Oh, there is another comment. I'm not going to do anything.
Councilmember
If you
Joseph.
recall, I was just mentioned that I had some questions and I had a philosophical issue, and that is,
All right.
and it relates to the question of whether we should approve an extension or not. And that is, if we don't, the entitlement goes away, and there is an opportunity to reimagine what we do with that piece of land. Right now, it's 4 homes, presumably all at market rate. There's an opportunity for higher density on the project, which I'm sure some of the neighbors won't like, but from a different perspective, it could be rezoned and reimagined to be a small condominium project that would provide home ownership that is somewhat more affordable because they're condos, not full houses. So I think what I'd like is for the council to think about this idea of maybe reimagining what that parcel of land could be. And maybe we go ahead with the extension this time, but recognize that, you know, maybe if he hasn't been able to sell it or develop it, next year at this time, we maybe want to reconsider whether we just extend it and leave it as is. Because I do think there's an opportunity to reimagine what you could do at that parcel. You could look at a mixed-use project. I guess my point is, I see that parcel as having a lot of potential other uses. And maybe I'm not prepared to say we ought to say no tonight, but I am certainly interested in throwing out that idea that we may want to rethink that because it could address some housing requirements, it could address some neighborhood retail opportunities if you had a mixed-use type of project, retail on the bottom, apartments or condos on top, and so on. So, you know, it's an opportunity to reimagine the use. And granted, that's a whole new process, and I'm sure the property owner isn't interested in that, but I'm just throwing it out there for your consideration and to think about.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Oro.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I actually did think about that a lot, actually, and I didn't want to say it in words, mostly because of that's a tough property to develop as is. It's really awkward. I'm not even sure how they get 4 homes on there as it is right now. You have it going up a hill, around a corner, up on a hillside between 2 already developed lots in a sort of this weird sort of L-shaped land. Yeah, and then as I look at the applicant and what they've been through, you know, one, it was tough to get it, then COVID hit, then the market changed. I immediately said to myself, you know what, I'll hear what's going on tonight, but let's extend this another year and see if we can pull it off. I do agree with you that, you know, if it comes up again, there might be 1 or 2 more of these things that come up, but even then, even trying to reimagine it to something else, somebody's going to have to be very creative to come up with an idea for that piece of property.
Any other council comment? We've taken care of all of the public comment. What's the desired action of the council?
Yeah, well, if there's no other comments, I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 2022, next in order, a resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon, California, approving a 12-month extension to the Rio Del Mar tentative parcel map and design permit from December 17th, 2022 to December 17th, 2023, located at the vacant lot northeast of the West Carolyn Drive and Rio Del Mar intersection, APN 058-162-012 and 058-162-013, file number PL22-0030.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Joseph?
No.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Councilmember Washington?
Yes.
Councilmember Albodamas is absent. Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you, council. We'll move on now to item 8 under public hearings. Number 18. 106 Wilson Way, special assessment lien continued from the November 15th, 2022.
No, so we're on number 17.
Oh, I jumped too far ahead. Giovanni Logistics Center warehouse project.
Mr. Mayor, Council, it's with respect to 17, the Giovanni Logistics Center warehouse project. It's a recommendation of the city attorney joined by the applicant that the matter be continued to your council meeting of February 21, 2023, and that the Center for Biological Diversity be allowed until January 16, 2023 to comment on the proposed draft project EIR.
And that would be, rather than opening the hearing, we would just continue it all together.
Continue it all together.
Okay. I would make that motion.
Mel, public comment on this matter? Anybody?
We have several people in the audience who have submitted cards for this item.
Okay, I will open the public hearing at this time. We will take public comment. Please come to the
Okay.
podium.
James Ashhoff.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
I think I'll go ahead and withhold my comments until the continuance. I agree with the continuance.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next speaker, please.
Next, we have Jason Lindsay.
Good evening, members of the council, members of the public. I will also withhold my comments and agree with the continuance. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes, Rick Franco.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members
Good
of the
evening.
council. My name is Rick Franco. I'm an attorney with Adams, Broadwell, Joseph, and Cardozo. I'm here representing Napa Solano residents for responsible development. I also
You get the microphone a little closer. Yeah.
Sorry
thank
about
you,
that.
sir. It's
I also agree with the continuance because tonight the EIR before you has numerous serious errors and does not comply with CEQA. We have submitted several written comments in the past detailing legal and technical issues and deficiencies in the EIR. We submitted another letter today, which I understand you may have not had the opportunity to fully read, so I'd just like to offer a couple of points that we pointed out in today's letter. These issues relate to the wetlands that are on the property. The project site is currently undeveloped, and there's about 200 acres of open space that includes federally protected wetlands. The project as proposed would eliminate about 80% of the open space and fill in and pave over many wetlands areas. As mitigation for these impacts, the EIR proposes to preserve in perpetuity about 45 acres at the northern part of the property and to create new wetlands in those areas. So it preserves existing wetlands there and creating new wetlands. The EIR that's before you does not and cannot demonstrate that this mitigation is sufficient under CEQA. We recently learned that there's a new gravel road that's been constructed across this property, north to south, that runs directly through this proposed open space mitigation, wetland mitigation area. The road and the associated land disturbance encroaches on areas that were mapped out to be created as new wetlands as well. I have a map that I put in my letter at page 5, as well as Exhibit B to my letter. In response to a recent Public Record Act request, the city has produced documents suggesting that this new road was built in connection with pipelines that were approved as part of a project to the north, an Napa Logistics project. But whatever or whether the road was properly permitted or analyzed in connection with another property is irrelevant for your issues. To this day, the city has never disclosed or analyzed the impacts of this new road on this project. And the only way to fix that is for the city to revise the EIR to fully analyze these issues and recirculate it for further public comment. For that reason, we do support the continuance, and we hope that the city will take this opportunity to revise the EIR and address these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another speaker?
Mr. Mayor Garcia, we have somebody on Zoom, Hallie Kutak. Ms. Kutak, please unmute yourself.
Hi, council members. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So, as you know, on last Thursday, on December 1st, the center submitted a letter to the city regarding its failure to provide notice to the center about the administrative process for the project, as CEQA requires. The next day, the city did send us a written response and agreed that the city had failed to provide notice, and said, as it has done now, that it would recommend to you, the council members, that the hearing be postponed on the project and the comment period reopened. So I am in support of the continuance of the hearing, in part because the center did rely on the city's comments in its decision not to submit written comments on the environmental impact report tonight before consideration of the project. Furthermore, the city's recommendation has stated that only the center will be allowed to submit written comments before January 16th. And I would urge the city and the city council members to confirm whether any other interested parties in the project did not receive notice from the city and therefore were deprived of their opportunity to comment on the project as well. And the easiest thing to do may be to recirculate the EIR and open up the comment period. So thank you, council members. That's all.
Thank you for your comment. Is there any other speakers?
We have no other speakers at this time.
Okay. I'll post public comment at this time. Return to council for further discussion, desired action.
Okay, well, the motion, well, I kind of approved the city attorney's motion. The only thing I would clarify is I think the idea of extending the time for the Center for Biological Diversity is because theoretically everyone else had the same opportunity to have commented. So I will reaffirm my motion to, or the city attorney's motion, to continue this hearing to the meeting of February 21st, 2023, and to grant the Center for Biological Diversity until January 16th, 2023, to comment on the project draft.
I'll second.
EIR.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Councilmember Washington?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abrama's is absent. Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you, council. Moving on to the public hearing, item number 18, 106 Wilson Way, special assessment lien continued from November 15, 2022.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we received a written request from the property owner for continuance based on medical issues and a reference to other property that could be used and would be relevant to the city costs in this matter. I would recommend, based on this and my conversations with the property owner, that you continue this one last time to your next council meeting.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions from council? No?
No.
All right. I'll open the public comment on this one at this time. Anybody from the public wanting to comment on this matter? Anybody online wanting to comment?
No comment online.
Okay. I will close public comment and return to council for further discussion and action.
If
Yeah, if
Why don't
there's
you go ahead.
I'll make a motion to, if there's no objection, making a motion for, to accept the resolution number 22022, that's next in order, a resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon.
I think we're continuing it.
Yeah, I would offer an alternate motion, which would be to continue this matter to our December, what is the
20th.
December 20th meeting?
Is this not item 18?
This is the 106 Wilson Way, where item 18.
Oh, okay.
So,
I got you.
We are continuing the matter.
Gotcha.
For some continued work on it. Okay, so.
So I'll make a motion to continue.
I'll second.
Okay.
Until the next meeting on December
20th.
20th.
All right. So we have a motion, a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Councilmember Washington?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abrama's is absent. Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you, council. That concludes our public hearing items this evening. We're moving on now to business items. We have the matter of maintenance of utility departments, environmental services division update.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. While we get the presentation loaded up, just wanted to remind the council, this is part of a reoccurring series of quarterly updates from the departments. This first round of updates are meant to be business items, but we get the formatting and scope ironed out, and then in the future, we'll have just these in the packets for the council review. This time around, within the Maintenance and Utilities Department, we have the Environmental Services Division here. Take it away, Felix. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public and staff. Felix Hernandez, Maintenance Utilities Director. Tonight we have the Environmental Services Division update. The Environmental Service Division covers several programs in collaboration and coordination with stakeholders and other departments within the city. I'm going to turn it over to Environmental Services Manager Pam Phillips, and she's going to highlight some of those programs and what we do in the Environmental Services Division.
Good evening. As Felix mentioned, I'm Pam Phillips. I'm the Environmental Services Manager. We're going to do a presentation for you tonight on what the programs that we have here in the City of American Canyon. Before I get to that, though, I just hired a new employee. It's my first new employee for our division.
Oh, wow.
It's Elisa Hernandez McDade. She got sworn in today as a new city employee. So we just wanted to welcome her to the city. Again, she's my first new employee.
Welcome aboard. Good to have you with us.
So you all know this is the swans out at the wetlands ponds. I thought it would just be a really good introduction to our division. These are all the programs that that come out of my office. So there's a lot of different programs that we have. I'll let you read through them. I'm not going to read through each individual one, but they will be highlighted within the presentation. The first program I wanted to mention, this is a pretty big program. It has to do with the water reclamation facility. In August, we were just given a new NPDES permit, which stands for the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination Systems. The wastewater treatment plant has always had this permit. It's a pretty big deal to get it renewed. A lot of data is involved in getting it renewed. We successfully got a few things taken out of our permit. Those few things actually came about from a inspection that the regional board did at the plant. So because they saw what we did get a few of those things taken out of our permit that we no longer have to do. We also got some reduced frequency in testings, as you see, which actually will make our costs go down just a little bit. The tests that we did get reduced in, they're high-level tests, so it does cost quite a bit of money to run them. We also do a lot of analyzing and processing of water samples. We do 124 compliance samples per month. We do 207 process control samples per month. And we also started back up our SARS-CoV testing on our domestic wastewater. As you can see, there's a QR code that will give you a public-facing dashboard of our results that we're getting. They're not up there yet, but they should be up probably within the next month. And there's also backlog data from when we had previously done this sampling. And finally, we have part of our permit requires us to actually do several reports throughout the year. We do a monthly report every month, and then we actually do 5 reports yearly that will be due. All 5 are due within the next 3 months. Finally, or sorry, not finally, but our permit also regulates our pretreatment program. Even though we're not required to have one, our permit still says that we have to maintain our pretreatment. This allows us to protect our sewer systems and the water reclamation facility. As you can see, we have 74 active permits, all that have to be managed and inspected on a regular basis.
Excuse me, what is zero discharge?
I'm sorry?
What is zero discharge?
So zero dischargers are those facilities that have the possibility of harming the system or harming the plant. They have chemicals on site, but they don't discharge to them. And so whether they're using them up or they're just disposing of them off site, they're not putting anything into the sewer system.
Well, we've interrupted you. On the commercial restaurant, pre-treatment for a restaurant would be something like a grease trap or whatever they're.
Yeah, the grease traps, so
officially-
they're regulated. All of those commercials that you see, we did update the Muni code to where they actually pay for our permits that they have. And again, it's inspections of all of those facilities that we have to do.
Okay.
They're mostly done once every permit cycle. However, if there's a one that we have to keep our eye on, especially the restaurants, then we'll go and do it yearly, quarterly, whatever needs to be done.
Okay. Thank you.
We do a lot of outreach. You know, when you see these different things on our social media platforms, it's not because the communications team just wants to do that. It's actually coming from our office because we're required to do these outreaches. Most of the things that are put out there are the things that have been harming our sewer system or are a national target for sewer systems, like the wipes. That's a national epidemic that a lot of most nationally have been the problem. We see a lot of contact lenses, like the plastics that contact lenses break down into. There's earplugs. With the pandemic, there's a lot of masks and gloves that come through the sewer system right now. So again, we work closely with the communications team, and I really appreciate them for all the work that they do in putting outreach out to our citizens for us. We've also worked with the Parks Foundation on their Explorer program, and we've also done the Citizens Academy. We just had a class come through probably like a month ago. Take a tour of the wastewater treatment plant. We should show them all the water that comes in, how it gets cleaned, and how it goes out. We also do our recycled water system. So a new thing in the new permit that we just got, it actually included what we have to do for the recycled water. In the past, the recycled water has had its own permit, and it still does, but they've also now included it in our NPDES permit, and it spells out sampling, inspections, and reporting. Right now, the city has 21 landscape services. There's 33 private users on recycled water. We have 2 residential self-service stations, one at the Courtyard and one at the water reclamation facility. And we just completed our 2nd season of residential delivery service. The seasonal residential delivery service was a great big hit for our residents. As you can see, we got a lot of emails thanking us, you know, how great it was. This is our team this year. Again, we contracted it out this year, so this is Kyle. A lot of people who got their service knows Kyle. Great kid. Again, he would go around filling everybody's barrels. I got pictures all season long of what other people were doing. You know, we tried to keep them on the website, or if people had questions, I could easily send them to these. People were showing me all their vegetables, their flowers that they were using recycled water on, and the flamingo is at the plant because we have our grass landscaped with recycled water. So this is a graph that shows all of the recycled water that has been made, and as you can see, there's 732 acre feet since May of 2021. And since that time, there's been 10 acre feet that have been used by the residents.
Oh, that's an improvement.
This graph is just a depiction of the seasonal changes that we see, both in potable residential use and our recycled water that's produced. A lot of it obviously is during the summer times, but again, it's only it's what, maybe about a quarter of what is used by the by potable water. We're thinking of different ways to make recycled water a little bit more convenient for all residents. So an option that we've discussed is having a access fill station on the other side of town, and actually putting one on this side as well, on the west side as well. But this would give residents a 24-hour access to the recycled water instead of just having basically a workday time that they could use it. We also do water conservation programs. We've done the Cash for Grass and the toilet rebate. This season, I guess, the season since January, we've done, there's been 9,214 square feet of turf replaced. We've also replaced 32 low-flow toilets. We do hazardous waste and solid waste. So the solid waste contract, or the solid waste program, came over to our department as well. Within that is the hazardous waste. We received a discretionary $50,000 grant for our household hazardous waste. This will be used for additional outreach and education. We're going to just kind of beef up the program a bit for that. And as you all know, we're going to be really doing the SB 1383 organics program. So hopefully coming in 2023, we'll have the countertop composting pails. We received a grant for $30,000 that will help to get those pails. And finally, we have we look at the EV charger systems and the solar systems throughout the city and see how they're functioning and working. We were given different dashboards so that we can get a lot of the data. We just kind of started looking at this. So this is the safety building. This is the red is the actual, and the green is what was projected. So the safety building is way over the production of what was actually, or it's way over it's way over producing what was projected. This is the water reclamation facility. For some reason, there isn't any data in the summer months. The system went offline for a little bit. So that's something that we're going to try and make sure that we're looking at.
So we're producing more energy from solar than we're using?
In some cases, we are. So so the red, yeah, right here we are. The wastewater plant isn't, because the red is what we're producing, and the green is what was projected. So, like I said, it may have been different in the summer because we have a lot more sunlight in the summer. The water plant's pretty much head on. It's producing as much as what they expected it to produce. And finally, we have the EV charging station here at City Hall. There's been 434 total charging sessions, 95,000 total charging minutes. As you can see, all the metrics that we're able to look at for the charging station here at City Hall, those are all those are all totals. So those are all the programs that come out of our office, if you have any questions.
Thank you for the presentation.
Oh, you're welcome.
10 acre feet of recycled water. Oh,
For residents?
Yeah, that's on the residential side. That's enormous. I think the year before was something like 3.
So that was last year as well. So that's been since May of 2021.
May of 2021,
Mhm.
yeah. That's quite an achievement. I do, from time to time, have that opportunity to talk about what we're doing with recycled water delivery. North Bay Watershed Association, you may be familiar with them, but that's Marin, Sonoma, Napa, and Solano County, and a monthly meeting. And of course, that meeting, end of it, what's happening in your town? And everybody, wow. Yeah, I mean, it's doable. And I think it's been a very successful program. Can you address the concerns about salinity in recycled water? Is there an issue with that? Or because I don't notice it with what I'm watering, but I do hear it from time to time.
So what I wrote down when I hear that is part of our permit says we have to go into the receiving waters and take water quality samples. So the receiving water for us is the 2 ponds that we have, and along with the right across from the landfill where the pipes are under the road, where there's the tidally influenced water, that's where we actually have to sample. So we're sampling pH, DO, salinity. Salinity in our reclamation water is anywhere between 0.7 and 1.5.
So,
if we're out receiving water where that tidally influenced water comes in, it's up to 30.
But that's brackish water from the bay.
So I guess that's my point, right?
Yeah.
Is there's water coming in that's tidally influenced, so it's coming up against the banks at 30. Our reclaimed waters at the highest is 1.7, 1.8.
What's that compared to 1.7, 1.8? Is that
Well, you have 30 parts per thousand versus 1.8
No.
parts per thousand.
So 1.8 doesn't sound like it'd be very damaging.
Actually, 30,000 to 30,000 parts per million to 1.8 parts per million, sorry.
But what about comparing that to our potable water salinity rates?
It's probably like I'm gonna say like 0.3, because our domestic wastewater is about 0.5.
So our potable water is relatively high in salinity compared to our recycled water.
No, it's lower.
It's
Potable
lower,
is
but-
half. I mean, you're gonna find
Yeah.
salinity in everywhere, because the way you measure salinity is by conductivity, which is actually the amount of somewhat metals and chlorides in your water.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Wanted to add
Too much
something to that.
chemistry.
Yes, I'm glad you covered it. For salinity in the water, recycled water, there have been studies that have been conducted that are readily available. There are best management practices involved with using recycled water, and folks that are using it, mostly on larger scale operations, like say if you're using it for vineyards and such like that, you would need to follow the best management practices. The information is out there. I'm glad that the question was asked, because we have that information. We can start pushing that out via social media and on our website to help folks out with those kind of things and how to mitigate any problems that could be.
Yeah, I think it would be good to have it side by side. This is what potable water is. This is what recycled water is. So easy graph there for somebody to click on and say, oh, okay, this is what we got. Yeah.
And I had a few other points of clarification. There was a question about, when Pam had mentioned there was data that we didn't have. It wasn't that we weren't producing solar at that time. It's just that the monitoring system, we were having an issue with the connectivity of that. So we weren't able to gather that data, but we were still producing solar from those panels. Another question from Councilmember Oro was, are we producing more than we are using? So the answer to that is yes. We've had, most recently, we were able to get some data from PG&E, where we can now make those correlations with how much we're producing, how much we're using. For instance, the water reclamation facility is a big user, right? A lot of power going on there. It'll offset there, but at the water treatment plant, we see some months, in the summer months especially, where we're producing more than what we're using from PG&E. So we're all 100% solar. The public safety building, we see that same trend, which we do have data here that we can hand out. We put it together in pretty short order because we just got access to that data. But we do intend to report on that in the future to really compare those usages. And then also something that's come up in the past that hasn't come up tonight, but I'm going to bring it up, is the cost, right? What is the savings, which we also have that data as well. And we've seen a significant reduction. In fact, this month, this month, compared to last year, same month at the water reclamation facility, that invoice from PG&E is cut in half. So it's been significant savings. Other points that I wanted to, the zero discharge question, I'm going to put a plug in here. Well, the zero discharge stuff is related to the local limits as well. So it's the high strength waste question. Folks that cannot meet the local limits, so they may off-haul or treat on site. Those are things that we're going to be addressing with the NG project phase 2 that we're looking into right now with taking high strength waste, where we're targeting those zero dischargers, and with the dual benefit, right? We get vehicles off the road, less greenhouse gas emissions. At the same time, we'll have a revenue source because we'll be taking it at our local facility.
If I wanted to follow up on the recycled water question, because we had one customer who felt that the recycled water actually damaged the English garden that he had and had spent years developing. I don't know if he raised those issues with you, or if you have any, and I don't know what exactly is special about plants in an English garden, but, or maybe it wasn't even an English garden, but he felt like the recycled water killed off some of his plants, or something killed off his plants.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I would encourage anyone here and council members as well, if they receive those kind of comments, or you receive anyone contacting, they could contact us. We'd be happy to work with them, provide some data and some mitigation measures if it's needed.
I also had contact with that individual. It was an English garden, but the individual said you can always contact the city, ask for a reimbursement on your loss. He declined. So, yeah.
Okay.
Councilmember Oro?
Well, I'm next. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the good work you do. I'm just impressed with the recycled water program. I've told this story a couple times. During the campaigning for the supervisor races, it was fall and spring, Mayor Garcia and I toured some supervisors, candidates around, and they were impressed that we were actually doing that, and it was wondering what all these barrels were doing around town. It's a great thing, and Pam, I invite you to come over. If you're looking for new photos, you can take a picture of my decorative fountain that I use the water for. I don't actually use it for the garden. I use it for decorative fountains. So, the cash for grass. I brought this up last time we spoke, and love to see that get implemented again. Hopefully we get a lot of rain this year, but even in wet years and non-drought years, I'm a big fan of converting those small lots of grass that take up a lot of water. I think once the owners do it, they realize that it's awesome not to be able to mow your grass. And I know we've talked about communications in that in the past, and hopefully we could see that more kind of pumped up in 2023. Hopefully there's matching funds for that as well. It's a really good thing. Thanks.
To that point, Councilmember Oro's, I can't say enough about what Pam has done in that division. She's really, it's just been just her for many months. And all those, when we go through all those programs, Pam has spearheaded every piece of that. Obviously we support her in that, and we have other support from staff members, but the environmental division is consisted of Pam Phillips. So now we have Elisa on board. We have some other folks going to be joining the team. So I look forward to that as well, to really driving those programs.
Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, great presentation, and welcome to your new employee as well. Glad to have you. A quick question on the piece of the pie where it had the zero discharge. Is there a requirement that we ask those companies to provide us confirmation or proof of what is being hauled out, how it's being hauled out, and then compare the numbers of what they're telling us?
No, we never, when we inspect them, we'll look at manifest. If they're saying, yeah, we're hauling off, we will look at manifest to see what they are hauling off. But it's more so if we were to have an upset at the plant or if something was weird coming in, we might have an idea of where to go to first. And they're signing certifications yearly that's saying, no, I have not dumped anything in the sewer system. Yeah.
Okay, so it's nothing more that they are required to provide?
No, it's just, like I said, they do sign a certification statement yearly saying that they have upheld their permit. And then, again, it's just it's an enforcement mechanism for us that if something were dumped and it came from them, they can't say that they didn't know.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Do we inspect sewer discharge for those types of elements?
I'm sorry.
Well, the sewer discharge, if there's something that's not supposed to be there, if you get a sample that's got it in it, then you can track it down.
Yeah, we have, there's things that we test for automatically if we have any inkling. Especially, it's mostly organics, ammonias. So we have quick tests that we can go out and just kind of see what that's looking like. Yeah. And then we can get nitty gritty. We can actually do surveillance in the system overnight. And we have portable samplers that we can stick in a manhole. They'll sample overnight. And then, it's an investigation work. You just kind of keep moving up the sewer until you find who might be dumping.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Any public comment on this matter? Anybody online?
There's nobody online raising their hand.
Well, we'll close public comment. This is more of a second. Let me bring it back.
Thank you for the report.
Thank you for the report.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it tells us a lot about what we're accomplishing here and the challenges that we face. But wow, good job. It's just
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent work. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you, guys.
All right, moving back to our agenda. That concludes our business item for the evening. And management staff oral reports?
Thank you, Mayor. Director Akita has some updates from Park and Rec.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm here to provide the updates that are what's going on here in the City of American Canyon over the next couple weeks. Tomorrow evening, we have our OSAC meeting starting at 6:30 p.m. That's in person or via Zoom. On December 8th, we have our Parks and Community Services meeting at 6:30, and also that's in person or on Zoom. You can find both of those agendas on the city website. December 11th, we have the Seroptimus International of America is hosting a Dine and Donate at Lasso from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. and as well another fundraiser opportunity on December 15th at the Carols and Cocoa from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. On December 13th and 14th, we have our Magic of the Season I Spy Scavenger Hunt. That's going to be from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. You can register online to participate. And then on December 16th, we have our Parent Getaway, which is the Santa's workshop from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. This is an opportunity for parents to be able to drop off their children if they want to go out on a date night or go Christmas shopping before the big holiday.
Santa's workshop.
Santa's workshop. And then on the 17th, the Doubletree is hosting a breakfast with Santa from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then we, the Parks and Recreation Department, will be hosting a Donuts with Santa, and that's going to be from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. All of our programs and activities, including from all of our community partners, as well as within our department, is going to be on the community calendar on our website. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anything else, Mr. Hawley?
No, Mayor, that's all for the management and staff oral reports. As we go to the next item, I will note we do have a committee report from the Climate Action Committee.
No, okay, we're moving on to Mayor Council comments, committee reports. We'll take up future agenda items as desired by council after that. Councilmember Washington, comment, committee report?
Nothing.
Okay. Councilmember Oral?
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay. Councilmember Joseph?
The only thing I was going to report on is that the Climate Action Committee, but other than that, nothing to report.
I don't have a committee report. I'd just like to comment. The reindeer run and the season event, tree lighting, was a great event, despite all the cold and wet. It was, I was surprised how many people actually showed up. I spent a good part of the afternoon, 3 till 6, over at Shenandoah Park, and just going, wow, these, good thing there's a lot of pop-ups. You can get in and out of the rain for a while, but not many people. But then when we started the parade from Silver Oak Park, I got down near the Shenandoah, it was a huge crowd, given how raining it was. So I think we just kind of launched the season appropriately. A lot of good cheer and a lot of excited kids, as there should be. So I just would like to comment on, I just really thank the staff for all the effort in that. I see too many people from community parks and community services are soaking wet out there, but they're just still doing their job, hanging in there like some of the rest of us. But they just, I appreciate the commitment to that, and they did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome for my beach umbrella.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yes.
You would have been soaking wet just like him.
He had his, what do you call that? Your picnic table.
It was a beach umbrella, literally a beach umbrella in the middle of the rain.
It could hold about 3 or 4 of us underneath that. That was
a
great.
gigantic beach umbrella.
Thank you for the respite. Any future agenda items, council? Future agenda items? Anybody? Nope. Okay. And then,
so that would bring us back to the Climate Action Committee
Climate Action
report.
Committee report, yes.
All right. A couple of things I wanted to mention. First, we finalized the greenhouse gas inventory, and that was an interesting evolution. The initial numbers suggested that transportation was only about 30% and building was close to 40%, which seemed unusual because all the studies you read are actually the opposite. Transportation is usually 40% or higher.
Yeah.
But after they reviewed the data and sorted through and looked at everything, they ended up concluding that it was the way it normally is. The transportation is about 40%, building is about 30%. And the consequence of all of that is it shifted everybody's share of the problem. So in American Canyon, we originally had only an 11% contribution to the greenhouse gases, but after they sorted everything out, we became 16%, primarily because of that shift on transportation and because of the unique transportation aspect that runs through the middle of our town. So that's the greenhouse gas inventory. The good news, of course, is you now have a baseline of data. You can drill down and say, okay, here's how much is agriculture related, and of that, here's how much is off-road agriculture versus other things. So it's a great piece of data. But then the next one, and that's part of what we're talking about, is the next step for the committee is to consider a regional climate action plan. And what we're throwing out to the rest of the council is, does anyone object to that? The advantages are cost. You have one study that presumably is cheaper than if you had 7 individuals. Obviously, less staff time at our end will certainly be expected to help out, but the county will be running that program with a consultant. And theoretically, some of these solutions are regional impact. I mean, air pollution doesn't know geographical boundaries and all that. So from my perspective, and I won't speak for Councilmember Washington, but I think a regional climate action committee makes the most sense. The other good news is they're hunting down a grant that might finance most of that, which makes it even more exciting. But the real issue is, unless anyone else on the council objects, we're going to go forward with the assumption that it ought to be a regional climate action plan and move in that direction. So that, if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, I'll sum it up. I think that I support that regional approach as well. And not only for the Climate Action Committee for the county, but the local one that we have. I just want to tell you that you're doing an excellent job with coordinating that and facilitating those meetings and stuff like that. So.
And we will soon have a PowerPoint presentation on that plan so that you will have all the excitement of 1990s technology.
So what would be the objective with the plan? What is to be, there's some sort of study of what's generating greenhouse gas.
Well,
what do we do about it?
Yeah, the first phase was getting that inventory, and we have that. So then the second phase is this action plan that is essentially, how do you reduce those numbers? So they'll be talking about electric vehicles, they'll be talking about vehicle miles traveled, more energy efficiency, more solar and renewables. It's essentially going to be very similar to the climate action plan we developed.
Yeah.
It'll just be,
Well, if you look at, say, electric vehicles, how do you make them affordable?
Well,
because
actually,
not everybody can afford one at the current price.
Well, and that's what the Inflation Reduction Act at the federal level does provide some rebates. I mean, part of the solution is understanding that law better than anyone else because there's a bunch of rebates and credits and a lot of money. I mean, there's $300 billion.
It's interesting to find out how much that would reduce the cost of a electric vehicle.
I think $7,000 or $8,000 if you pick the right car.
Well, is that still affordable? I don't know.
Well,
but it's cheaper than what it was at retail.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, it's a challenge to buy a brand new car no matter what.
Well, I'm just looking at having worked in Yountville for a number of years, the number of people who are driving up, the workforce driving up, isn't, what's the hourly rate for hotel workers, for winery workers? But a challenge to be accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering on the, you said the greenhouse gas, how is that measured for American Canyon? Right here, out here on the highway? Or are we counting cars in town?
Yeah. I can't address the methodology that much because all I did was read the summary report.
Okay. Well, question to ask because, for measuring all the cars, that's one level.
Yeah.
How much of that is American Canyon?
But interestingly enough, I don't know if it's January or February, but the OSATS committee, I think, is going to get a presentation from Deborah Elliott, who managed the greenhouse gas inventory. So.
tomorrow night,
right.
actually.
Or it's tomorrow night? Okay, well then, I would respectfully suggest you
Yeah.
show up tomorrow and ask.
I will ask. Is that
And-
at the OSAC meeting tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I
Good.
guess she will be, but,
Very good.
so.
Well, that's my question. Anyway.
Like I said, barring any other issues, I think our marching orders will be to support a regional approach, and
Yeah.
and if we're lucky, it won't cost us anything, because we'll get a grant to pay for it.
Wow.
All right.
Okay, well, anything further for the better good of the community in the council? We have concluded our work this evening, council. Thank you very much.
Good
Much
night,
appreciated.
American Canyon.
Thank you.
I just want to pass out that we're getting ready for the season. Okay, so Christmas ties would be appropriate next meeting. As you know, at my discretion, I will adjourn the meeting to next meeting on the 20th and to Santa hats and Christmas carols for those who would like to participate. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Good night again, American Canyon.